one of my big memories of growing up with Ehlers-Danlos and it being undiagnosed was that I had a lot of pain that wasn't recognised, and particularly like night pain. If I walked, I had bad pain. But the real double whammy is that local anaesthetic doesn't work. For some reason, we don't know why. Local anaesthetic tends not to work for Ehlers-Danlos patients. So I'd already got a reputation as being a little bit of a baby because I cried at night with this leg pain, which was very, very real. But everybody assumed I was hamming it up. I went to the dentist to have 4 teeth pulled because another symptom is having an overcrowded jaw. I got into the dentist's chair and they gave me an injection which was supposedly going to numb everything, and then started pulling my teeth. And I was screaming in agony, only to be told by my mother and the dentist, "Don't be so ridiculous, of course it can't hurt you," thus confirming my reputation as an absolute baby who had no pain threshold, and it was, oh, here she goes again. I later found out, because I had no benchmark as a child of how much pain anybody else would feel, what I was supposed to feel, I was simply being told off for making a fuss. I later found out I'd effectively had 4 teeth pulled on the same day without anaesthetic. That hurts, and the pain was very real. Living with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is actually very hard. The problem is it's an invisible illness, so the first thing is you look absolutely fine. So all the visual clues that people would normally take to make exceptions for you because you're disabled just don't exist. One of the big problems is fatigue, stamina, having very little energy to use in a day, and overusing it has catastrophic consequences. You get into a downward spiral and you can go into a very, very bad relapse. So having to plan everything, you can take nothing for granted. You have to plan everything. And if something overruns, if you get stuck somewhere, if you have more time upright, more time walking than you intended, you've ruined 3 or 4 of the following days. It's very, very difficult. Socially, it's quite hard. You have to say no to ever such a lot of things. It's a little bit like a bereavement where you think, oh, I must tell so-and-so something. You see a film, you see an advert for a theatre thing, oh, I'd love to go, and then you think, I can't. There's no way I can do even half of the things that I want to do. So many things you have to say no to and stay home and rest. It can be very, very isolating. On a day-to-day basis, EDS affects virtually everything you do. Just getting up in the morning, for example, waking up with fatigue, getting up and getting dressed is quite taxing. Having a shower or a bath, shower, for example, which is quicker, I have to rest after a shower, putting my hands up to wash my hair. My autonomic system doesn't work, so I'm prone to faint or fall, or at the very least have palpitations and shakes just from the act of showering and getting dressed. Bending down to put shoes on, another head rush because the blood doesn't keep up with the flow. Simple things like cooking. I love food, but I can't eat apples. I have a fructose intolerance. They would actually irritate my gut, as would onions, leeks, peppers, chickpeas, kidney beans. I could list thousands of ingredients that you find in everyday food. So it means when I dine out, really, really awkward. If friends cook for me, it's really, really awkward. But the problem I have as well is that cooking for myself is really hard. So just cutting a lemon like that, that's a strain on my wrist, and the pain in my hands would last for hours. I have particular splints, I have things to sit down in the kitchen, I have everything adapted. But it's really, really exhausting, just the business of living. One of the most devastating things I found was the accusation from doctors that I was in some way benefit seeking. I was at the peak of my career. I'd raised children on my own, I had held back. I really, really thought that these were going to be my glory years. And what happened was I was bedbound, I was in a wheelchair, I wasn't going anywhere, not to work. And with that, there's a whole load of financial worry. But more than that, for me, it was the idea that I was over and done with before I was even 50. It was absolutely heartbreaking. I felt I had so much to give and I couldn't give it. Everything felt like it had been taken away, and there was nobody that I could turn to talk to about that. The other thing was I did get back to work, and I was really, really proud. It was against medical advice, but I went back to work. But being in a wheelchair changed the dynamic completely. Going into a boardroom with my peers, when I wheel in, totally different level. When I go networking, almost impossible. To actually have conversations with people on an equal basis, it changes everything. And I was very, very interested in how that disability impacted my stature as a professional person. It was really quite an eye-opener. EDS has affected my family very profoundly. My daughter has the condition. There are remnants, definitely, in my mother, but what's come as a surprise is that actually my half-sister from my father's side has absolutely identical symptoms to me. And the really amazing thing is we weren't brought up together and we've only met later in life. So to find that I've got this genetic looky-like is just absolutely amazing, but really deeply saddening because we know what's in store. My daughter's life has been profoundly affected by it, and in turn that's rippled out to my son, although he's not affected. That's had a profound effect on his upbringing, having to share his life with a disabled sister and do a lot of looking after way before his years. It's also affected my nieces and nephews and cousins. It's a genetic illness, it's autosomal dominant, it comes out down the line. And watching the young people particularly falling prey to it, it's really heartbreaking. My daughter was affected almost from birth. There was something wrong. We knew there was something wrong. While I was carrying her, we had some problems, which we later found out she'd actually had a bleed on her brain in utero. Her blood vessels are so thin. As she was a small child, she didn't meet her development milestones in quite the same confident way that her brother had. She wasn't as dexterous. She was very clumsy. Her muscle memory was poor. She had very low stamina. She was such a sleepy child, so tired. She'd put her own pyjamas on and go to bed really early, mid-afternoon. She was so tired. We didn't realise what was wrong. We knew there was something wrong. It was very obvious that something was wrong, but it was very, very hard to pinpoint what it was. When she was 8, she had her first major episode, her first big collapse. She recovered from it and made fairly good ground in her middle years, while I was able to control how much she did. If she had a party one afternoon, we wouldn't have gone shopping in the morning. If we had a day out, we would definitely rest the next day. So I intuitively did a lot of pacing with her, but as she got older and wanted to grasp life with both hands, she fell through the cracks and it was horrendous to watch. College was the end of her, a journey to college, doing her college work. She did her O-levels, or GCSEs as they call them now. She did her GCSEs lying down. She was self-taught for a lot of it. She went to university for her interview, collapsed afterwards and never recovered. She came out of hospital in a wheelchair after that. Watching her friends grow up, live their lives, find boyfriends, do all the fun going out things, while my child was lying on the sofa, getting whiter, thinner, more tired, was the most devastating thing a mother could look at, and not knowing what was wrong. It was immensely difficult. Her pain was palpable. It was immensely difficult. Now we have a diagnosis. We know what to do to some degree. It's about, for now, it's dealing with the symptoms. My hope for the future is that they will find the root cause if they could find the root cause of Ehlers-Danlos, we could actually do something. We would know if it was metabolic or if it's purely collagen deficiency. We would know better how to treat it, and drugs and treatments could be developed. I would love, if I had a magic wand for a cure to come in time, that she could have children who weren't affected and who could live full and productive lives and not go through that pain. Well, Findacure is an amazing organisation. If you have a rare disease, you often feel like you're in the minority, but you put all the rare diseases together, we're actually the majority. And the really interesting thing about Findacure is, rather than terming them rare diseases, they've actually picked up that they're fundamental diseases. These diseases that are there with smaller patient groups, if you can get to the bottom of those and unlock the code, they give you so many clues about the more prolific diseases. So rather than thinking, let's cure the big sexy diseases that everybody knows about, unlock the code to these tiny, smaller diseases. You find out so much and will get such value for money for the health system. In terms of patient support, Findacure is amazing. Most support groups are run by passionate parents and patients who found themselves by chance in this position. They're not necessarily equipped with the tools, but we all have the same need for support groups, tools to manage our conditions, to understand about research, to get grant funding. By bringing us all together and facilitating and teaching us those things, Findacure is massively improving the power and the patient power of these support groups. It's phenomenal.